Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this City Council study session to order. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? We'll start with roll call. Council Member Koch? Present. Council Member Loy?
Also present.
Council Member Allen Henderson?
Here.
Council Member Lavaca?
Here.
Council Member Peterson?
Present.
And that is all. Carl has been asked to be excused, so we'll excuse him for that. Okay, now it's a very, very special night. After 39 years of dedicated service to the city of Sedro-Woolley, we are proud to recognize David Davidson for his commitment, hard work, and lasting impact on our community. At this time, we will have Public Works Supervisor Nathan Salsina to start us off.
Is it on? The light came on, but then it went back off.
Oh, maybe just...
Oh, okay. Okay. So, David Davidson began working full-time for the city on May 6, 1987, and fittingly today marks his 39th work anniversary. David holds the distinction of being the longest-serving full-time city employee. When David started with the city, Ronald Reagan was president. Donald Spud Wally was mayor, and the population of Sedro-Woolley was around 5,000. It's remarkable to see how much changed since then. Over the course of his career, David spent 5 years in the solid waste division as a driver, as well as time in the cemetery and parks departments. Ultimately, he found his home in the streets department, where he has dedicated the past 34 years of service. There's also a meaningful piece of history tied to David and his family. When David retires and leaves the city for the last time as an employee on May 29th, it will mark the first time in 70 years that a Davidson has not worked for the city of Sedro-Woolley Street Department. His grandfather, Stanley, served the city in the 50s and 60s, and his father, Dwayne, served 30 years until 1992. David truly exemplifies what it means to be a public servant. He has always been dependable, and his work consistently reflects care and attention to detail. When David is assigned a task, you can be confident that it will be completed correctly and with pride. Throughout his career, David has worked under 7 mayors, installed thousands of street signs, and spent tens of thousands of hours operating city equipment ranging from road graders to dump trucks to snow plows, street sweepers, and more. He has played an important role in mentoring and training the younger staff, generously sharing his knowledge and experience. And I can't express how valuable of an employee David has been to the city and to me as well. Wow, where'd that come from?
He's cute.
So now David doesn't have to worry about whether or not we have a snow or rainstorm coming in, and whether or not the plows are ready or the water pumps or some other darn thing. Thank you to Jerry, Jake, and Cooper for sharing him with us for all these years. And on behalf of the entire crew and city, we thank you for your years of service, and we wish you all the best in your well-earned retirement. So come on up, David and Jerry.
First, I'm going to give these flowers to Jerry because she shared David with us for all this time. And I have to tell you that Kevin and the boys still want their cupcakes. So, and I'm honored to present this plaque. And it says, to David Davidson for 39 years of distinguished service to the city of Sedro-Woolley in the Public Works Department, May 6, 1987 to May 29, 2026. The Sedro-Woolley community has been fortunate to have the service of a dedicated and thorough employee at the city. Thank you. some words? Come on up.
This is hard. I don't like speaking in front of people. I just appreciate what the city has done for me and all the bosses I've worked under and councilmen I've worked, mayors. I just appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll go into unfinished business. Charlie?
Yes, thank you. So we've got the next iteration of the City Council strategic goals that we're working on for to guide the 27-28 budget. That will clear a room instantly.
Yeah, it will. Goodbye. Thanks for coming.
Can't hold a crowd.
So to start out, the initial version of this includes some additional edits from staff, just some clarifying edits as well as edits from Councilmember Peterson, and then we also have comments from Councilmember DeYoung and Councilmember Koch that we received. So I'm going to start out with the main document because it came in track changes. Then I added a few then to it, and what I'd like to do with council is just we can go through each one if you would like, or we can take a general look at them, and you can give me feedback. If they look okay generally, we can move on. It's really up to the council's pleasure of how granular you want to get with this. The council emails that I received, some of those are more general in nature. Some of them had, like there's duplication here, and can we combine those two things? And I'm hesitant to do that. These are ideas that came from council and additional things that were built from staff underneath them. So hesitant to just start combining things without the council's okay on that. So I could go to town and just edit away here, but it would be helpful to have some general direction from council and as specific as you want to get. So I'll just jump in here and you can let me know if this is too much or not enough. So the first, right on the front page there, goal 1, we added recreation as to parks. So that's a proposal. Any concerns with that from council? Okay, I'm just going to keep going. Just shout it out if you got a concern or want something different. We took out, we just changed parks facility improvements to parks improvements and included communications funding as well on number 2 under goal 1. Any questions?
Councilmember Lloyd, do you have a question or do you want your light off? Kevin?
Do you got a question?
Oh, no, I just want to be noticed.
Okay.
I do have a quick, just a
Okay,
remark.
go ahead.
I'm just going to restate on the communication part. Asking IT people to be webmasters is really tough because I know from my last job, it's a significantly different skill set. You can pick it up, certainly. So that might be something to look at if you really want to upgrade the website, especially including parks, to look at a consultant or somebody short-term.
Councilmember LaBaca?
Oh, thank you very much. I think that's in the activities 1.6, and I know that last time I had mentioned that the hiring a full-time person doesn't seem quite adequate. It depends on the scope of the process, so it'd be something I guess worth discussing. But it's not terribly difficult to design a website. Anybody who's ran a campaign and kind of create their own website, say no, they can get on Wix, pay the fee, get the domain, and do all that stuff, and then you start tinkering around it. A little bit different with the cities, of course, but if you want to get interactive with Public Works, if you want to get interactive with the Parks and Rec, if you want to get interactive with a lot of the maps and link those to different areas, maybe it's a little bit more complicated. But it is in activity 1.6 on here.
Well, let me just add one thing. So where it gets complicated is the updates. You need somebody who will regularly update it and know how to do that. A large website like the city, like at Western, required almost daily updates, and they also have to deal with increasing numbers of cyber attacks. I think Western got 3,000 a day.
Yeah.
So it's a changing, especially with AI, they can just take over your website. And a lot of small cities, they've been attacked with the ransom software that takes over your city website and takes over your city computer and says, send us $1 million before $100,000 before we even turn it on. So you need somebody really professional watching that. And I know Woody and his staff are doing a great job, and maybe they can learn it. But I think you need some additional expertise. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Just one more comment on that. It like I said, is activities is 1.6, hire a website professional on staff. So it's up for the discussion of that throughout the tenure of this program, I would imagine part of the goals. Not that we would hire him right now or whatnot, but the other thing is that for cybersecurity, that should be handled in-house from our team. And I believe that Woody would have control over that entire thing, not a website designer. So 2 different roles on IT with cybersecurity and then web design. Web design, again, might not be a full-time position at this point, or some cities get much larger without needing that. But Western was obviously a much bigger campus, a lot of usage, a lot of students used it as their portals, and then all of their activities, their classes, their courses, their credits were used on that. So
It's a good point, but if you want to step up in quality, you need more expertise. I'm not saying Woody and his staff can't figure it out, but I think it would be nice at least to have a consultant come in, revamp it, and then they can run from there.
Well, to be fair, Charlie and I have had discussions as well, where we could take a look at the website, some of the things that could just be quickly enhanced, and then go to the person who's doing that, make those couple adjustments, and then go from there. And I think that would make everybody happy, where we would see some change within it, easier ways to get to the different, parks, council members, different things like that. And then at a later date, if we ever come up with an abundance of money, we can look at hiring someone on. But I think we can make those changes in-house really easily.
Yeah, I would just add as a general caveat to this plan, these things we set out as intentions, but it doesn't mean that we can do them all. Sometimes they get sequenced differently, or sometimes budget conditions intervene. Sometimes we find a different way to do it. But I think the intention here would be to try to enhance our communications, and so we would need resources to do that, ultimately.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to
Councilmember
say, because
Peters?
I'm the one who inserted this comment, and it had previously said to support parks facility improvements, but then in our last discussion about the strategic plan, or Councilman Lavaca was talking about all this communication stuff, and I thought that was a really good idea. And so I thought, exploring traditional and non-traditional funding opportunities that support parks, as a whole, including the communications and everything like that. That was all I was, just not being exclusive to the facilities.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to keep moving here. So down to number 3 under strategies, we have a comment regarding pump tracks and mountain biking for kids. And some more context there. Looking to add that somewhere. I believe that was Councilmember Peterson's suggestion, but I know that Councilmember Lavaca has brought this up plenty of times as well.
Okay. Councilmember Lavaca?
So I was going to say that I read through that comment and I thought the pump track, Nate actually has looked into it. And so he has some cost ideas. They are kind of expensive, but it could be a benefit. And he looked into the aspect at the Reed Street property. So, yeah, I would be in favor of seeing those options, or even talking with Nate to see what he thought about it. If, it would bring some fun activities for the community.
Charlie. But so just putting a couple cents in, though, this is really more of a project basis thing that actually initiates an activity. It's not really a strategy, especially in the first person, but things like adding pump tracks or adding we kind of have adding ball fields in here as an example, but that's only an example. There's even more than pump tracks and other things that we'd add. To me, this is, the goal is to enhance our parks facilities, and that can be done with a variety of means. And so it's one of those things that I don't know if I want to call it caution, but putting things at the project level aren't really probably appropriate for anything in this, although it's good to have those ideas to help define meaning and that type of thing. But yeah, because there's one more level below this whole packet, and that's things like project level, like the 6-year tip and those types of things, so.
Councilmember Peterson?
Hi, this was also my suggestion. It was a comment though, and I didn't, so my comments are really just comments on this, what is it, goal 3 is about the pros plan. I was so surprised when I was canvassing last summer, so many people mentioned a pump track. I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what is that? I had to look it up on the internet. But then I learned about this Woolly Fest thing, which seems super awesome, and it's right next door, and it has our name, our city name in it. And I thought it would be a really great way to like get an event together to like bring people into the city, and then get the youth involved in doing this pump track thing, which is a nice, healthy outdoor activity that involves bicycles. It's like a skate park, but for bicycles, I think. So I was pretty excited about that. And my point was, and I'm going to say this with all of the goals and activities in here, I think we should start by looking for outside funding, grant funding. I think this, from a grant writing perspective, we have a really good setup here to win some awards to fund this.
Yep, my suggestion on that is that we just insert some additional clarification under activity 3.1. So that's the one that talks about the pros plan, to just make sure we don't lose track of the council's intention to have us evaluate pump track options and anything else mentioned there as well. And Woolly Fest, I understand that a portion of it will actually occur in the city this year as well, not necessarily the mountain biking portion, but some other activities. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, moving on down. Activity.
Sorry.
Apologies.
Councilmember Loy? Did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, the county has been in the parks business for a long time. Now they funded youth activities and adult activity, any that's a thing that's an activity, they had to pay for themselves, and you didn't have to pay for using a trail or anything. But when you hire somebody to run the baseball games or whatever, everything's taken in from the kids that are playing or adults that are playing. That's where the operating money comes from for activities. And then if you're doing other things, it's more like a part of the deal. So paying its own ways is going to be the way it's going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, down to activity 1.5. We just clarified working with the school district and other partners to share information and co-sponsor events at city parks. So just thinking broadly on that, it's kind of it's a general edit. I'm going to move on to the next page if council's ready. That's activity 2.2, where we have an addition, utilize grants first and then city funds. This is a key benefit of doing this strategic planning at this time. So a little bit of a comment, I think a clarification as well, I believe from Councilmember Peterson on this one as well. This was her draft. I started with her draft, honestly, because it's like, it's in track changes, perfect. I'm going to use that. So then I added some stuff that I had received from staff as well to this. So I'm just trying to figure out whose comments are whose right now. So if no concerns there, I'll move on to 2.3. 2.3, also from Councilmember Peterson. I don't know if you want to speak to that one, rather than me trying to paraphrase your comment.
Oh, yeah. I guess just one of the things that I've heard from constituents is that they'd like to see more kind of outdoor options downtown, because downtown is, most of the year, let's be real, it's raining out and it's really nice downtown because there's a lot of indoor opportunities. But then when we have really nice weekends, like last weekend, the sun's out, it's really nice to be able to go outside and do kind of downtown activities outside. Shopping around, that kind of stuff. And I heard from a few people, maybe getting some food trucks downtown could help increase foot traffic for local businesses, that sort of thing.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, food truck thing. We've gone round and round with this over the years. That's something, we could look into that for like specific businesses that have like a gated area that, you know, don't have a kitchen, food trucks in there, but when we're putting food trucks and other such things in the vicinity of businesses that are first of all paying for a business license, they're paying taxes to the city. Those people that run the food trucks, and a lot of them have really good food, it's opportunity based. So a lot of times they'll come in and they'll scalp our restaurants and take business away from our central business district partners and people who pay a lot of tax money into the town. So regulatory wise, we'd have to be really heavy. We'd have to make sure that, yes, they have their Sedro-Woolley business license to be here. And yes, they are paying tax on all of the stuff that they're selling, which, let's get real, a lot of food trucks are not going to do that. So the idea sounds nice in theory, but if you talk to a lot of our downtown businesses like I did last year when we were dealing with the taco stand, they were absolutely furious, and kept asking, get these people out of here, they're stealing our business, we're paying taxes, they don't even have a health department license, and it took that long to get them out of here. So encouraging that kind of behavior, I think, would kind of not be good.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think before we used to have a fee for food trucks. It was like $1,000 a year. And then we lowered that down to $75 a year, so that way it made it more accommodating. And this is for like park events and the school events, and even around town with Barley and Brew, they had Smash Daddies would come in and maybe do some meals there. But there's not a lot of food truck service for Sedro-Woolley area for sure. We don't have a lot of food truck options out there. If there were, we tried for the skate park competition to try and get food truck there for last year and then this year as well, and it's a no-go. So I think one of the best things we could do, and we're very limited in that, is encourage that outdoor eating at the restaurants. So and Magnolia, when they were there, did that. The Bullpen does that. So there are some businesses that do that, but it doesn't mean that we have any control over what they do or don't do. But we can, during the summertime, some outdoor eating or sitting in those areas and is nice, So.
You can always take it to go and then go sit at our lovely Hammer Heritage Park. Okay, no. Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't see your
Okay, I'll
mic
move
because
it.
thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember. Brown.
Yeah, I do see the point about the food trucks downtown. When I was a reporter in a little southern town, somebody came in and really ticked everybody off, But I think in the parks, the next one talks about having pads, and I don't know about that, but, I think there should be some kind of exception for food trucks possibly at nonprofit events. I was at the Helping Hands, where they tried to fill the truck with food for folks, and Dick's little truck was there, and boy, I'll tell you, people turn out for Dick's hamburgers. And so I think there should be some sort of flexibility there for the nonprofits that might want to do that. But you're right, the local restaurants also have that ability. Thank you.
Councilmember
I
Lavaca.
was just going to ask a question. So is there any restrictions with our municipal code that heavily dictate, we're not getting a lot of applications for them. And right now, as far as I know, they have every right to apply for a permit to go down to the park, or as long as they got a business license, they can go to the park or be stationed around.
Yeah, there are restrictions around how close they are to existing businesses in the
Yep.
code. I don't recall all the exact numbers, but it's like 100 feet or 200 feet. They have to be at least that far unless they have written permission from those businesses, those nearby restaurants. They can set up on private property, like industrial property or somewhere like that with the appropriate licensing. And city parks are an option if we allow it, but that's going to require us to, set up some separate policies.
Okay, so a city park would require additional policy like at Riverfront?
I
for
think
food trucks?
yeah, from a parks perspective for
okay.
us to look at, for special events, not a problem, but if we wanted to do this like a more programmatically, like we've got a pad and we're gonna kind of lease that pad to a food truck for a period of time or whatever, that would require some more policy.
So that, I guess that would be my clarity on this, is understanding where the challenge with having food trucks around the city, or is that a code deal? Or, sounds like in here, it would just be a matter of if we wanted to have it at the parks, we'd have to do the policy. But we're not looking at changing any other city policy with anything.
I don't think so.
Yeah, unless there's a park right next to a restaurant, which I'm not aware of any of those right now, off the top of my head, unless we're talking little parks downtown, that's different.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yeah. No, I'll pass.
Okay.
Nick kind of covered it.
I guess my general question for council is, do you want to keep this action item that we're going to explore revenue generating options in the parks, such as developing food truck pads? There could be other options too that we're not talking about.
Yeah, I think the action item's good. I think food trucks is just one aspect of that, and I'd hate to remove it because we got locked on that one. There could be other avenues for generating that. I don't know if possibly, like Little League championships obviously aren't necessarily in that sphere, but something like that, or a disc golf championship or something in that range, if that fits in that, we should still keep that as possible revenue generating.
Excellent. We'll explore it, keep it in there for now if the rest of the council feels generally. All right, good about that. You can always strike it at the next review if you have
You guys,
heartburn.
Councilmember Henderson?
So are we just gonna say explore revenue generating opportunities in city parks, period, and leave the rest out?
If that's what the council's
Because
pleasure is.
that makes it broad. To me, this kind of seems like, a 60,000-foot, overview, and some of the items in here seem more like, way more up close, so.
Sure.
Which I don't think is the object of what we're trying to do tonight. We're trying to get the broad overview.
We're at least trying to get good clarity with the council, so we're not bringing you back a bunch of things that at the last read, you're like, hey, I'm gonna take out half of that goal.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Cock?
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, but that guts the first part of that talks about bringing people downtown. I mean, you can mention something about bringing people downtown and don't include the food trucks.
Should we, because I think that's later on said in here, but we could just add the revenue generating opportunities in city parks and town.
That would be a nice,
Yeah.
All right, seeing some
oh,
head nods.
just one,
How about the downtown merchants moving their shop out on the street for every Saturday night or something? That'd be different. In St. Petersburg, Florida, the first of the month, they block off several streets, and it's a good time.
could be something to explore.
Absolutely.
Put it down. Okay.
All right, moving on. So next up is 3.2, developing planning and design for funding improvements to Reed Street Park, just a clarification there to be specific. 3.3, we have an addition to seek mitigation funding for this project through the summer, which we are trying to recall if we're doing that. I believe we are.
Primarily this summer.
Mike.
Microphone.
Primarily this summer, it's a matter of getting the agreements in place with the county to allow us to do that, which lets us go forward. And then, there certainly can be some different funding sources, but right now it's been contemplated to utilize that excess from the property sale, the family promise. And then we know the
finance.
relocation will likely cost more than that, but then we'll investigate either other funding sources or whether we need to utilize some general funds to do that or whatever. But really, until we have a design and those types of things, I won't know what exactly that cost is. So really, right now, my focus is on getting the details of the county partnership this will require to make it a reality, and then start into that design so we understand the full scope of what's needed to establish those ball fields with the target of potentially constructing next summer if that's appropriate.
Councilmember Cock?
Yeah, I was interested, I saw a story, not a story, a letter, pretty long letter to the editor in the Skagit Valley Herald from Tim Manns, who is a longtime guy that was with National Parks, and I believe he's on the County Recreation Board. And he raised concerns about nesting areas there, and his suggestion, he said it's still part of the National Park Recreation Area, whatever, is across Helmick on east of Helmick. So just throwing that out there, you might want to take a look at
Yeah,
it.
that's something we'll consider too, but one of the pieces, for instance, of doing that, and one of the goals of locating the ball fields where the master plan has previously, what do I want to say, allocated them or identified, is like, for instance, we would help triple their parking space for the entire area as part of serving that. If you did it across the street, you'd lose that component. I mean, there's basically some priority things to puzzle out with the county, and then figure out what that collaborative effort is, and then understand how we march forward. And we want to do this easily within the next 6 months, so we kind of figure that out. But there's pluses and minuses to each one of those ideas, and we just got to figure out what the preferred alternative is.
Councilmember Lavaca?
I would be in favor of possibly just rewording this, because ultimately what we're doing is we're shuffling 3 park fields around. And so we got Homestead, Winninghauser, and then the county park. And the county will provide some funding, and then this and that. So just kind of wording this to maybe something better to include all 3 shuffles and see then what the priorities are. I would like to, I think for simplicity, stick with the plan that the county had with the allocation of the Northern State or the Veterans Park, because it was already part of a plan from long ago. And that would make it easy as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, real quick. I guess to me, the rub is which one costs more. We already own Bernie House and land, and we'd have to work out some sort of agreement with the county, and it could cost more.
I think it'll be all right. Go ahead, Charlie.
If we're ready to move on, so we'll work on rewording that. We'll find the right words for it. Olmsted Park Phase 3. So it's an addition after seeking funding for the playground. So it's build Olmsted Park Phase 3 playground equipment or other possible improvements. This just the addition to seek grant funding first was on there. So any concerns from council?
Councilmember Peterson?
I just wanted to say I went through this plan and basically put on as many of these as I could think of a funding source for, that we should go get some grant funding. I just want to make sure that we're maximizing our use of funding. The citizens of Sedro-Woolley are paying not just Sedro-Woolley city tax, but also state and federal tax, and I want to make sure that we're recapturing our fair share of those funds as they become available. And the whole, like, the reason that I'm so excited about this strategic plan is because it really allows us to identify goals so that we have the time before we really need to do the stuff. Like moving the ball fields is kind of late to seek funding for that, but a lot of these other projects, grant season's coming up here, and we can apply, seek funding, and get some of these projects done, and then save our taxpayers some money here in town.
Yeah, can I speak to that?
Councilmember
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So
Do you wanna-
just as a quick piece here, really, pretty much all small cities in Washington, but Cedro certainly is not any exception to it. Our typical business model is we don't do a lot of major projects without grant funding, because we wouldn't be able to stretch our dollars and leverage our local tax money nearly as much as we would without that. So we typically don't do a lot of major things without grant funding. It's just really part of any active city's business model for producing capital projects, because you get roughly about a 5 times leverage out of it. So I appreciate that, but that's also part of what we do as a normal business practice.
Okay. Councilman.
Yeah, I was just actually gonna say that exact same thing as far as like what Mark Freiberg used to do, what Bill Bullock does, and they're diligent on reaching out for that funding, and then even utilize Nate and others to help write those grants and head up some of those projects throughout time. But it's one of the things that the city definitely focuses on. I don't think we've done anything that we haven't applied for grants or gotten a match at least on.
Okay,
All right, moving on, 3.6, we had an addition to the hire a Parks and Recreation Manager staff to actively manage events and programs. This position would be separate from Parks Maintenance. That was what was in there. Had an addition to consider hiring senior services staff as well, which is definitely a discussion we'll be having this fall.
Councilmember Henderson?
The senior services staff, I think we should pull out of the Parks and Recreation area and put somewhere else. I mean, that's obviously something that's been identified by everyone on council, that we want to make sure that we support the senior center in any way that's possible. And then a Parks and Recreation manager, what would they be managing that isn't maintenance? Like we have Little League, we have football, and those programs all kind of run themselves for the most part. Like they're volunteer based ran. And I think if we open the door for a recreation department, that's going to open the door to, well, now we need this other person, and now we need, I've seen it happen. I don't like it because a lot of times the ball gets dropped and it's, well, we don't want to do this anymore. We don't want to do that anymore. So we're not going to do Little League this year because for some reason they just don't want to, right? So we're talking about starting the beginning processes of building an entire department in this goal. And I don't think until we see a need for it, until we see, okay, Little League, they're not doing stuff anymore at all. Like there's no volunteer base for it, and we still have kids that want to play, you know. And same with youth football and all those other programs. I don't see the need for us to bring on a person, a paid staff member, another FTE, as a goal yet, because I don't think a need has been identified for it yet. That's just my 2 cents.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you. Councilman Henderson, you're crushing me. No. No, I definitely understand where you're coming from. And the council had the same consensus, because I actually brought this up about 4.5 years ago. And I pushed pretty hard for it because I thought having a, not specifically Nate, but a person like Nate, a Nate type person that is really geared towards the parks, very familiar with Sedro-Woolley, very familiar with our park circuit, would do a really good job bringing it all into one focus and mapping it out and using it as a circuit. The council at the time, they reviewed the idea, but they said maybe at a later date. So it might still be maybe at a later date, maybe in 4 more years or 8 more years or something like that. But the position in essence was kind of having somebody that can sit down, map it out, make the contracts, make the grant programs, work on some of these coordination with the little leagues and things like that with the parent groups and stuff, not head those up, but just somebody who can actually focus a little bit more time on that. Our park circuit under Bill and with Nate, they do a wonderful job. So, you know, it's not like a push, but it is something that I just feel it would benefit Sedro-Woolley at some point in time.
Councilmember Henderson, did you want to?
Yeah, no, and I do see where you're coming from on that. One of the things I'd be more apt to, had we not just realigned our public works departments to where they're a little bit better suited to handle that now that there's a little bit less on Nate's plate. It's gonna allow him to, for at least the next couple of years, to fill in that role a little bit in a heavier capacity. But I do know what you mean completely.
Councilmember Cock?
I don't know if I'm right on this, but is Sedro-Woolley the only city of any, in the, well, not Hamilton and Concrete, maybe Concrete, are we the only one that doesn't have a recreation department? I'm just curious. It might be a long-term goal. I don't think financially we're ready to hire any FTEs to do it. But as a 10-year volunteer basketball coach, Little League and soccer, I saw what you guys are talking about, the magnificent volunteerism of our local community. But there are gaps in what's being done, and besides sports, there's plenty of kids that just don't play sports, and there's other opportunities and outlets for them. One of them is being filled by the Wise Teen Center. I don't know if you saw the story in Skagit Valley Herald. They got a band day or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's something to consider long-term, maybe as our population increases. But you're right, we're well-served by volunteers. But I just think long-term, some kind of recreation department, once the funding is available.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Peterson?
I am in agreement with Nick. I think there is a need now for I don't know. I think coordinator and manager are kind of synonyms in my mind, but having someone to coordinate with all of our partner organizations to get those events and programs running smoothly. And maybe, we're looking, I'd like to see the city increase the number of events. I think that would help bring in business and increase foot traffic downtown, that sort of thing. I think it would be a real economic driver to have someone on staff who could do that coordination work. So I think there's a need now.
Okay, do you want to kind of put that to a majority of,
That would be helpful,
Okay,
I guess, to get
so,
clarity on where we are on this.
just to kind of give him more clarity, can I get a vote for how many would be in favor of it now and how many for later down the road?
What
What does it say in our comp plan?
If I may ask, because we revisit this next year and the year after and the year after, so we can always come back to it next year and say, hey, do we want to add this in? I think the comp plan talks about it in the long-term project, getting that in there, so it is in the comp plan. And when 5 years, when we kind of go back just to skim it, or we can always amend it, we can always revisit. So I'm good with removing it for right now, and then if we wanted to revisit it, with the current org chart with Nate in that role and those guys kind of filling it out, kind of having more time to say, yeah, this is something where we could do this or that, they'll bring that vision back to the council and let us know that maybe their plates are too full.
Okay, and so I'm going to guess that you're for it now.
Oh, I just had a question for Bill.
Okay.
Bill, given the recent reshuffling in Public Works, does your team have the capacity to provide this coordination support?
So I think part of this is to step into it incrementally, and Nathan's also part of a pretty serious effort to train the new road supervisor as well. But to step into that incrementally as knows what he's has more capacity to do and those types of things. But I do want to point out that mostly what our guys do, although we have necessity to coordinate with Logger Rodeo and some of those bigger key events, really our guys mow the grass, take out the trash, and keep the parks in good order. They don't really have time to coordinate Easter egg hunts and movies in the park and some of these other events that can attract different uses to our parks as well, especially with Olmsted Park coming up. We do that just simply by necessity because there's a certain amount of our larger traditional events. Blast the Pass is another one where we are coordinating traffic control with the fire department and the police department to create that secure area for those. But whether they're fun runs, whether they're, like I said, a movie series at Olmsted Park with the blow-up movie, there's all sorts of things you can do. There's a lot of that doesn't happen in much of a large way because, like I said, we're a maintenance staff, not necessarily a coordination staff. And some of that, what I've heard, is like, hey, let's grow some of these things, which we can certainly do, but they are dedicated to maintenance, not necessarily programming.
To be fair, though, a lot of the different groups also offer wonderful activities for our community as well. It's not just all of us having to do everything. And they do coordinate with Nathan to make some of those things happen. So I do feel like we are able to work together as a community.
And that's part of the benefit of this town is they have an extremely strong volunteer arm, if you will, just exactly like Councilman Henderson said. But, like the fishing derby is another example where several volunteer things come in for an annual event. But some of that, it begins to get out of some of the bailiwick of what typical maintenance staff do, although Nathan, the capable person he is, steps over that quite a bit just to keep those things coordinated. But it's one of those things, if we want to triple that capability, we're probably not going to be able to do that with our maintenance staff, which certainly this town has the ability to do as well. Because we also coordinate, I feel myself getting hoarse. But, another capability we use, to a large extent too, is our Chamber of Commerce. Also does a lot of stuff as well. But there's kind of a certain capability that could be the glue that glues a lot more stuff together. Could be done with someone that doesn't have an entirely maintenance focus, or their primary role is a maintenance focus. That's
So
all.
moving forward
So-
then, Charlie, would you like to, you've got Nick in favor of waiting, Nora waiting, or you want it now?
Well, and
Or-
the timeframe for this plan is 2027 to 2028. And I think by that time, sure, maybe we need to come up with a capacity building plan to get this done. But I think by the end of 2028, the city is going to need a coordinator for this.
I think to finish part of my thought, though, that I think it's also fair to give Nathan a chance to step into it incrementally, because really, he's the one I'd want to drive the ideas, because he's the one that truthfully is fully immersed in it. I mean, I support him every bit I can technically, but really it's part of, let Nathan step into this more higher capacity incrementally, and then come up with a good idea of what the next step would be.
Okay, let's finish this up. Councilman Henderson?
We should wait.
Okay, Councilman Loy? Councilman Cock?
I think it should be on until 28.
Okay, so majority, or 3-2.
Yep, clarity
go.
achieved. Thank you. Okay, down to 3.6. No, we just covered that. 3.6 on the hiring senior staff. There was a question though about, moving that out into a separate item. So does council have a desire to do that out of Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it meant. I was thinking it meant like hire a senior position, like not the senior center staff. Am I correct, or what's the clarification on that?
I read that as senior center staff,
Senior center staff, is that what we're?
but I'm looking for
Councilman
clarification.
I can speak
Peterson?
to this because it's my comment. So at the time that I submitted these comments, the senior center stuff was all up in the air. And so I thought this should be something that we consider. And the reason I put it in with Parks and Recreation, visiting the senior center, they're right in there with the parks. And they do a lot of fun activities at the senior center. There's so many people going to those yoga classes, So I thought it might be a good thing. And then maybe also, I don't know what the workload is there, but then maybe also adding in some of those Parks and Recreation coordination activities but I don't think we're hiring for that position. I think that's all been kind of sorted out in a different way.
Okay, so we are gonna, I think, resolve the question before we get to 2027, and probably know that by then. So my suggestion is we just take it out for now.
Okay,
All right, moving on. Under goal number 2, strategy number 2, addition of, this includes data collection and building relationships to support the community vision. Any concerns? All right, move on. Number 3, This is more of a comment of wanting to see more database strategic approach in partnering with the University of Washington and Non-Drivers Alliance to complete a sidewalk inventory. I'm assuming
Councilmember Peterson?
This is your set of stuff.
Nick's
that's
usually
why
the
we're
one who
doing it.
has all these comments
Yeah.
written out and then is going through and talking to all of them. So I attended a Non-Drivers Alliance meeting a while ago, and they're working on a sidewalk inventory that includes Sedro-Woolley. They have funding from the state. They're working out of University of Washington. And it just looked like a really good way to kind of take an inventory of our sidewalks, see where we're at, so that we have the data that's needed to go seek funding to really do a big sidewalk project and get our sidewalks walkable, rollable, that sort of thing.
I got a quick thing.
Yeah.
I know I'm throwing in a bunch of comments here. So just to let council know that Kyle Anderson right now is about 80% complete with a full sidewalk gap inventory in the city. And so I expect he'll probably be done with that in about probably 2 to 3 weeks, to where he's got it on GIS, and he's kind of done a bang-up job with that. They're both sidewalk gaps on projects identified in the 6 years. So then the next step is to classify those sidewalk gaps that are associated with a major project already. Others that are associated with state highways, which is a little different animal. And then the other thing is then start prioritizing some of the low-hanging fruits in those sidewalk gaps so we can go after that funding and start closing them. Similar to what council's kind of given the mission for, one of the elements council's given for Public Works is that small works priority inventory. So all of this dovetails in with that. And like I said, we've got about 80% of all the gaps identified in the city so that we can then begin our prioritization and then come to council with what we think the first series of projects should be, and then kind of work on that. So we're working on that right now really actively.
Excuse me, sorry. Bill, I just wanted to ask, what is a sidewalk gap? And the reason I ask that is because I've seen areas of sidewalk. I was walking around town the other day, and I saw a family also going for a walk. There was a section of sidewalk that was so rough that the mom and kind of older kids were able to stay on the sidewalk, but then the dad had to bring the stroller into the street at that point. Is that a gap?
So that's also a gap.
Okay, cool.
Okay, Councilmember Lavaca?
Well, so I guess my question is, since we already have a study being done and conducted within the city, do we need to keep the partner with the UW and Non-Drivers Alliance in the activity plan, or should we just?
I wasn't aware that there was a third-party group including that with the city, but I'll reach out to them and see if we can coordinate a little bit. But part of that will probably be us feeding them information because, like I said, we're having our own personnel that know the city, know the system, and figuring out what those are. Oh, sorry. I'll put my face closer to the mic. And so that, but we, like I said, we have, Kyle, who's the one that designs most of our ADA ramp improvements and all that sort of stuff, is basically taking that knowledge set and directly incorporating it to what our needs are so we can flesh out that priority array and understand where those are.
I think Councilwoman Peterson's suggesting that with the partnership with the UW and Non-Drivers Alliance and the cities, bringing that forth for grant funding to say, hey, we got to get these sidewalks this ground, or sidewalks filled with the gaps and more concrete, or built out in certain areas. Do all three organizations help with that, accelerate the grant funding?
I have no idea.
I
I kind of don't have any idea because we don't have a partnership with them because I wasn't aware they were even doing that in our city. So they hadn't reached out to the Public Works Department. So I got to figure, it's an independent effort. So from what our staff is doing. So I got to kind of figure that out and figure out what the right coordination effort is.
Okay, Councilmember Koch?
Well, if you're already doing it, I think you could change the language to look for, build on the sidewalk inventory being conducted by the city and reach out to other partners with information, something like that, because maybe this Non-Drivers Alliance and the UW, I know the UW, when they do these studies, they update them every year. So it might be useful to us, and it's got the added caveat of taking it to funding agencies, and, because we'd love to have a big chunk of money for sidewalks at some point.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thanks. Yeah, we've gone round and round with the sidewalks too, the last couple of years. Finding additional funding, grant funding for sidewalks is hard, but not impossible. So are these partner agencies, are they also seeking funding to do studies to tell us our sidewalks are all jacked up? And then when we go to try and get funding for it, the funding's been used to do the study that we've already done?
I have no idea because
Yeah,
I haven't talked to them at
mean,
all.
We're 80% done. It'll be
Right.
done in a few weeks. Let's just roll with that. Partnering with the UW and Non-Drivers Alliance, sounds good on paper, I guess, but we're almost done with our study and we know our city. So, moving forward, trying to seek grant funding as we always do. Let's just roll with that.
Can I say something?
Councilmember
Yeah, I
Clark?
would at least reach out to these groups and see, and, Councilman Henderson has a good point. We certainly don't want to set ourselves up for, somebody wanting funding, but if they're already doing it, it's not gonna cost us anything, and we can use their information, why not?
Just a suggestion then, why don't we just strike the additional language, but we will reach out to these groups. So, that way,
That sounds good.
it's happening.
You okay?
Okay, if we're ready to move to number 4. So we've got an addition there, just to clarify, identified in the comprehensive plan and in the TIP. The comprehensive plan added in there. And then there was another comment to coordinate with partners to develop multimodal improvements in concrete streets and consider adding those improvements to the TIP. So just essentially continue to make transportation progress, but some clarifications. Any issues or concerns, sir? Okay. All right, hearing none. I'll move on. Down to 3.1, the bottom of the page. Addition and then reframe those projects and seek funding. So this is reframing the small works priorities plan, projects to seek funding for them, consistent with the other efforts to seek grant funding. And certainly we can do that if that's the council's desire.
Mayor? I just had a quick question. It's my own ignorance for Bill. Bill, what's the difference between small works and plan and deferred maintenance? Because I remember the engineers at Western, every time we'd meet on, and they'd say, the legislature won't give you a penny on deferred maintenance. They want to build buildings, and they're $100 million behind in deferred maintenance. Are we behind in that kind of stuff?
So deferred maintenance really is a matter of not being able to maintain a facility of whatever type on schedule of some type. So you don't have the funding, you can't meet a regular maintenance schedule, but things are good enough, so you just let it continue. And then eventually get to a point where you're kind of behind the 8 ball with that. Which can be all sorts of, like our concrete streets, for instance. And one of the reasons why those have been deferred maintenance is concrete streets are so stinking difficult to replace and maintain. And that's one of the causality relationships that causes deferred maintenance to become, I don't want to call it a preferred decision, but the resulting decision, okay? And and so so the Small Works Priority Program is actually a thing I've wanted to do for a long time, and you guys are the first ones that gave me the ability to do it. But there is a class of projects that fall between what I would call regular routine maintenance, what that takes care of, and what major projects like the TIP take care of. And the projects that fall in between those things, typically things under $350,000 is kind of one of those measures, many times fall into deferred maintenance because you can't get regular money for them, and they don't fall in the regular maintenance class. And so they basically become the things that are difficult to do. They aren't the low-hanging fruit. And so what the Small Works Priority Program has allowed me to do is start identifying some of these things. So we aren't going to pick all of them off probably because we don't have money for that, but we can certainly start addressing what I like to call the low-hanging fruit, but at least attack it strategically so we end up with appropriate improvements that benefit those parts of our community that oftentimes don't meet the litmus test of a large project and something that we can do with day labor.
Okay, but we'll incorporate those words in there in a way that makes sense. All right, moving on to the next page, 3.3. So got a comment in there, wanting to see a data-based strategic approach that is not politically driven, partner with UW and Non-Drivers Alliance once again. So a similar kind of thing.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does the not politically driven mean?
I don't know, I didn't write it.
Who wrote it?
Yeah, Councilmember Peterson, I
Okay.
believe, submitted that.
Do you want
Okay.
to elaborate?
Hi, Alan.
Councilmember
So when
Peterson?
I was canvassing, I had, and I don't think, we talked about this at the last strategic planning meeting as well. I think there's a perception, I actually heard this a couple weekends ago from some of our business owners downtown as well. I think there's a perception that the city is unfair in its allocation of resources and et cetera, et cetera. I think that's no longer the case, but I think we need to do some work to change the perception in the community about that. Does that make sense?
No.
No.
Could you elaborate a little more?
Well, people talked about how, I always see road improvements outside of council members' homes, things like that. I don't think that's happening now, but people still have that perception. And I think doing something to just put a little bit more transparency and accessibility into how we're deciding and allocaking those kinds of resources would really help. I wish Carl was here because
I was going to say,
he's
that's an
totally
old timer rumor.
He's totally.
Time, and
Yeah.
it was way back when.
And I
so.
think we could do a little bit of work, communication on that, and kind of put that to rest, because I don't think it's happening now, and I don't think, just to improve the perception of fairness in the city.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Yeah, I had the same question. Like, I wasn't sure what politically driven means. I've been on the council for 5 years. I haven't seen or heard that before. Although I have tried to get my road fixed numerous times. I will throw that out there. But nevertheless, I think it is pretty just, the Public Works has a map, and they've showed us that map. And they say, these are the areas that are difficult, these are the potholes, these are areas that we got to focus in. And I don't know that there's any, and I think they do a good job. I think, Bill, you do a really good job having them on the website as well, showing that it is logical and strategic, and there's really no bias in any of it. And I hope that businesses, I've never heard that before, but I hope that businesses don't feel that way either. And we just did, I think, the only thing that we really did was that grant program that went across the board. There really was available for everybody. I don't think very many people got turned down from that opportunity. So I would just keep the wording as it is in the 3.3, and then it does talk about the sidewalks, and it does talk about pedestrian facilities and stuff like that. And just keep, if people say that, I would refer them back to that website and say, hey, you can come here on your phone, you can pick it up and just say, look at what our Public Works departments put forth on the website and how they're got this, and you can always just email directly to them and let them know. And we've discussed having a QR code as well.
Councilmember Peterson?
I mean, talking about working to change the perception of unfairness in the city is kind of a broader thing that extends beyond a specific website or QR code, but, we can talk, we don't need to focus on that right here.
Would you all feel good if it was just the normal writing without the blue part added in? If we take the blue part out?
Would it feel better if we just took the examples out also?
Yeah, I like the database strategic approach. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've,
How are you doing it?
we've already nailed that down in the last, in the last thing, but.
So it's not a goal. it'd be-
So were you specifically referring to the examples of Metcalf from Warner to Nelson and Bennett Street to Township, like those specific examples as being politically driven? Because I mean, I can answer for why I put the Bennett Street one in, because,
No, not in
Okay.
specific.
okay, then, I mean, we could just pull those examples, because a lot of times I don't like naming names, you know, like I don't like naming specific businesses as like somebody that we're gonna partner with. And naming projects, I mean, those are just projects, right? I mean, the street and the sidewalks are owned by the city, so those are, you know, projects like that. I specifically asked for one of those because it was something that's important to me in my ward that I'd been asked by the residents on Bennett Street to finish, but, so I don't know if you guys want to get the examples out or leave them in. I mean, in
I'm
the sense of
fine.
favoritism, I don't know.
I'm fine to pull them out and continue with the process that Public Works is currently doing with their map that they have online. It's almost like not even quite a goal since it's already in motion.
Yeah.
And it is something that we are actively doing and that gets reported back to us on a regular basis, so.
So do we even want to leave that goal since it's, since it's already being worked on? Should we just strike 3-3 completely?
Yeah,
Because it's already well underway.
I'd be favor, yeah. Look at the first goal you already did, Bill. That's awesome.
Would you guys all be all right with that? Is that a general consensus that we'll just take 3-3 out since they're already on their way of doing that and completing it? You're all, okay, Kevin or Councilmember Lloyd, what about you? You're all right with it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. You got,
All
got
right,
it?
that's helpful. The only bummer is it's not in Visio yet, so we don't get the meter to move, you know, complete that one. That's
Do we
okay.
wait?
Okay,
Okay.
moving, there were 3 question marks on 3.2. I think the question had to do with local improvement districts. Local improvement districts are a way to finance projects that are public works projects. They fit into certain special purposes, but if, I would just recommend maybe we keep in there, consider local improvement districts to fund projects and just strike the rest if it's confusing.
And it is in the comp plan as an LID. We actually modified the LIDs to say local improvement districts, so it is consistent.
Sounds good. 3.4, just a request to see the focus of this project on getting kids to school safely. Thoughts on that? Any feedback from council?
I kind of think that goes without saying, though. Should that be, should we have that in our goal sheet, like something that's like, I don't know, seeing kids get to school safely is just,
Let me get to Councilmember Cock and then we'll,
I don't want to get into details, but getting kids to school safely, isn't that part of a negotiation we're going to be having with the school district, or is that over by Central School?
We talk with the school district about a number of issues on an ongoing basis, and certainly that's one of the ones we talked
I
about.
mean, maybe we have that as a goal because that we, somewhere, that protecting children in our community somehow. I mean, it's just a general goal as they walk, as they go to school, as they walk with their friends.
Councilmember Peterson?
I just wanted to reiterate that I submitted these all as comments for discussion and not as, they're not intended as like edits of the strategic plan. So, I mean, I think I just thought it'd be nice to, you know, we had got all these concrete streets that are all kind of around the school, and I think, you know, working with the school, seeing you know, someone could be riding their bike down a concrete street and fall because it's not, you know, it's not very safe for biking and trip hazards, things like that.
Okay. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you. Yeah, so I can speak to that because the majority of that's in my ward, and I get the brunt of the complaints about Talcott and 4th Street, and so and those are the streets I think we're specifically talking about here. And we have discussed getting those fixed, and you guys actually did a great repair attempt on 4th and Warner to get that landing a little softer because the buses were, you know, catching air off of that thing. It's fun if you're sitting in the back, but the project costs for the concrete streets are great. They're massive. But it is something, as a goal, I would like to see us try and push towards if we can find the money to do it. And I know that you had a great plan for some of that too, about changing classifications on some of our roadways. And that was a long conversation we had. And the other one was the classifications, and yes.
So the other one is what we're going to start implementing this summer, that I talked to council with. Really, part of this is, this is an appropriate goal kind of as written. Part of it is that, there's been a lot of this story and dialogue my last 2 years here, right? About, the concrete streets probably should have been started their rehab in the 70s, which is not incorrect. And really, concrete streets structurally are sound, but the ride quality is what always happens with concrete streets. And that it's, again, been that difficult elephant to push uphill. And then I'm kind of coming up with my best solution to try to help with that. And part of that, this summer, we're going to do 3 different sections of Talcott as part of an incremental repair strategy so that we can, one, understand what the funding and the cost and the scope of that is. And then, as we've also done an inventory, or starting it now, of some of these different more deficient sections of all those streets, because there is a small network of concrete streets in the old town, third, fourth, I think even fifth's a concrete street that was paved over. You got Talcott and Nelson. I mean, you got a small network of streets. And so this is a way then where we can very strategically figure out how to do the spot repair, because right now doing a wholesale street replacement, like you said, is crazy expensive to do. But this at least will give us some amount of improvement that we can control and understand, worst first scenario, whatever it is, and understand what it is. And that's kind of how we're going to make some progress that we've never made in the past. And so that's how I'm starting out with it, with something that's affordable and can address at least the worst first places. And then, eventually you get to something that is far more acceptable than it is today. That's part of what this goal is written for, so we can continue that strategy.
Councilmember Cock?
You told me an interesting thing recently, that buses actually do more damage to roadways than semi-trailers because they don't have all those wheels.
Yep.
And I know we've asked the school district before if they could reroute away from those 2 streets, and if they're not rerouting their buses, maybe we ask again.
Well, actually, I've been coordinating really recently with Mr. Greenwood on this as well. And it's something we're all going to discuss at our next meeting too. And for the most part, they've largely done that. I think they basically, as I've talked with them, about half the buses that deliver students to the high school go down 4th, and the other half come in from Jameson and go up 3rd. Okay, so there's, and then they've since greatly reduced that 15 to 20 school buses down to, I think, less than 10. And some of that is a challenge when you're delivering kids from north to south. Puget to 4th is the only straight through road across State Street. Everything else, a bus would have to make a sharp right turn, and then immediately sharp left turn, or a sharp left turn, immediate sharp right turn, which is a very difficult movement for a school bus. So I think that's why there's still a few buses continuing. But again, this is kind of an example of how I'm actively working with the school district on some of these different things. And we do recognize that type of stuff. And so they are, I think it's fair to say that they've readjusted their route so a majority aren't going down 4th, where we're kind of causing the concern with citizens. But then, yes, so this is all kind of about county frost heaving and all that stuff is when I first got into this. But school buses, because they don't have the same number of tires, and it's all about square inches of tire on the road for weight distribution of a school bus. And so school buses, a fully loaded school bus, I should say, typically puts anywhere from 2 to 2.5 live load forces on a road than a fully loaded 105,000 18-wheel freight truck does. And that's just simply because there's 18 wheels that are 20% wider than a school bus's are spreading that load out over. So school buses are very hard on roads, but that's just the nature of the school buses, and you got to understand that when you engineer things.
Okay, Councilmember Lavaca?
So I'm wondering if maybe we should reword that to develop a report regarding repair and replacement of estimated cost for the city's concrete streets as it relates to school zones or public safety, both school zones and that way it's just in there and it's just written down.
I'd say this goes way beyond the school zone. I mean, school zones only extend 300 feet beyond the school property. Okay. Really, to me, this is about the school system network, and it's really not about getting kids to school safely. If you're talking about that, you're really talking about sidewalks. And, you know, we have 0 collisions with our school buses in the city over the last 6 years. So this isn't about, are school buses having a safety problem that's endangering the kids, getting them safely to school? This is really about the road network, the ride quality, and how it affects the adjacent property owners and other things.
So part of the funding is, I believe at Central, if we can open up that road and get a through fare, then we can get funding for at least to start or have some action. That would already, I guess, be incorporated in this wording.
So part of the question that was asked of me is how can we get state funding to improve something like Talcott Road? And the answer to that is state TIB funding, 3% of the gas tax, because it's gas tax dollars. Those dollars, because of that color of money, so to speak, are only applicable to collectors and arterials, which is a functional classification change that would be required. And part of having a collector is being able to have a network that transports people from either between one arterial to another for a grid system, or from one traffic generator to the interregional system. I think that's right. So you have interregional travel and intra-regional travel. But so that's something where Talcott would be required to be a continuous road if it's going to be reclassified like that from basically the high school out to Railroad, because it's one of those connectivity pieces. Just like Jameson is really the start of Railroad Avenue and Minkler and all that, okay? And to do that, that would require it being a free and open road, which would mean you don't have the school gates there. But, so you got 2 different things. One is what would be required to functionally reclassify a road such as Talcott. And then the other piece is, that's really independent from that, is trying to start this program like I am that would provide incremental repairs that are meaningful to critical spots of our concrete road network. And I would say really what this goal is trying to do is address the concrete road network, regardless of whether it's next to a school or not. It benefits everybody. It's just a piece of the trip generation and traveling public on the network. And really, to me, addressing getting kids to school safety is either, are they getting to school safety with vehicles, whether that's parent drop-offs and or buses, or are they getting to school safely because they're within a mile of school and they have to walk to school, which to me is a sidewalk network, which is different than repairing.
So we're just basically keeping 3.4 the same.
That's what I would recommend.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
ready to move on?
Yep.
So, Councilmember Peterson, you've got a couple more on this page. If neither of them are proposals, then I suggest we continue moving if that works for you.
Yeah, I think I might have submitted this right after I attended this meeting with the Non-Drivers Alliance.
I see that.
Not a worry.
Great organization.
The Cascade Trail comment, it would really fit under multimodal, which is, up there a little bit. We don't necessarily have to call it out. We're working on it, but, it's part of a multimodal effort. We can move to the next page if folks are ready. We got 1.2 there, and then 1.1 as well. Same question, Councilmember Peterson. Any of these things that you're proposing to edit in the plan at this point? Or it looks like you had a question on 1.2.
I think my main thing here is I am not in support of for sure hiring a dedicated person whose main role is searching for grants and funding. I think working on developing that capacity internally would be a more sustainable goal, just in terms of like capacity development. I think just hiring one person that exclusively does that might not be the best approach. So that would be an edit. So consider hiring instead of hiring a dedicated person.
It sounds like our staff is already doing these things, so is this really even something that needs to be there?
That's kind of what I would think as well, yeah.
Yeah, I only put it out there. We had a really good partnership in a previous community I worked in where we had a full-time grant writer available to us. And it was a partnership between like the port, the city, the county, the economic development organization. So none of us paid very much. And we just shared the resource, and they would sometimes write grants for 2 or 3 agencies who were partnering amongst that group. Sometimes they'd spend a whole lot of time on one partner. Sometimes they would spend a whole lot of time on us. And it worked out really well. So it's just an idea to create more capacity. But, you know, if we feel like we're doing pretty well in this area, like, we can definitely take that off.
I was going to say, Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think that's a good idea. Then I was thinking this is a full-time employee at the city of Sedro-Woolley, so an FTE. Being in collaboration, everybody chips in a little bit of dimes for it. Depending on how many communities it's involved, it would be worth exploring that. So I'd be in favor of changing it to consider hiring and then keeping it on the docket and see what Charlie comes up with.
Councilmember Peterson?
I just wanted to say I'm in agreement with Nick or Councilmember Lavaca. I think that's a great idea. And I think one of the strengths of doing that in partnership with other jurisdictions, in addition to, you know, saving money and building capacity sustainably, we'd also get someone who's more familiar with a broader view of the community and our how we're situated with everything else, and just being that person will give us a stronger position competitively.
Councilmember Koch?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea what you were talking about, Charlie, because I keep reading these stories that the state legislature's going to be looking at a hard budget year. Their millionaires tax, they say, will bring in $2 billion is already spent. And the feds are going to probably be in worse shape when you consider they're approaching $40 trillion in debt. Just watch the bond market if you want to see what that does. But yeah, I'm all in favor of it. I think it's a great idea, and we're going to have to look for funding because our costs increase every year.
All right, that's clarity on that one. So we'll move to the next page. The blue, I'm now onto this. At least the blue in my version is staff comments, and the red is from Councilmember Peterson. So that first one there, Councilmember Peterson, anything there that would lead to an edit from your perspective?
The discussion piece I wanted to have there, sorry guys, is you know, we're requesting community input from with all of these different projects, and I think it'd be good to kind of strategize how we're doing that, because every time we ask for community input, we're really asking to take the time and effort of our citizens, and just being careful with those requests and making sure that we're only requesting input when we're really going to take it seriously and use it to inform our decision making.
Yeah.
Yep, 4.1, top of the page. This was a suggestion I wrote in here. Community budget surveys, this would be something we would do in 2028 before we started working on the 2029-2030 budget. It's a really good way to get feedback from the community about what their priorities are in terms of how the city spends money. And cities do these periodically. It's a good part of the strategic planning process. So we would essentially do this budget survey before goal setting and then bring that data to all of you to take into consideration with the rest of the process. So that's what it is. It's a proposal to do that. We would hire a firm that does this professionally.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you. I'm sorry. Can we rewind to section 3 of this?
Yes.
Now, I know I know before, we've often talked about not naming names on certain organizations. I see a lot of names in this section. For instance, Meals on Wheels, we have discussed that that's something we want to work together with, or, you know, at least you did a lot of work supporting that, continuance of that. A lot of that wouldn't be happening if you hadn't have gone to those meetings and done all those things that you did, Charlie. But I see here, Housing Authority, North Star, and then North Star again, and that's something that we voted on, withdrawing from that interlocal agreement.
So are you wanting to strike the names and just say that you work with community partners in general?
I would suggest striking the names and saying working with community partners,
I would be in favor of that.
just in order to keep everything.
I'm getting a head shake from my right, and then,
Fine.
okay. So you've got a consensus
Yeah,
on
just
that?
so I'm clear on where you went in the document.
I'm sorry,
3.2.
so I'm at 3.1 through 3.3 on goal number 3.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Now we'll go to 4.1. Oh, Councilmember Cock?
Yeah, so I guess I'm a little unclear. If we hired a consultant to do this, what kind of information would we get and how would we use it in figuring out our budgets?
So you would get statistically significant information. So these are often phone surveys. There are a variety of ways to do them, but it would be valid, you know, give you like a 95% confidence level. Usually they call 400 people, something to that effect. It would give you information on, for example, how people feel about safety in the community. So that may give you some insight into policing, give you some feedback on how people feel about parks, how people feel about really all the services the city provides, a wide variety. We would have the opportunity to provide some custom questions as well on some things that we wanted to know more about. But these tend to be standardized surveys. There are a number of different firms that do them across the country. And there's also some comparability that comes out of it, which is just interesting. So you can look at, you know, how we compare to other similar sized cities or how we compare to other cities in Washington in some of these areas. And that also gives the opportunity for staff and council to potentially go and research some of those places that are doing some things more effectively than we are, and to learn from them as well and look at some opportunities there.
Is there any grant money available for something like that?
It's not a super expensive project. It's, you know, typically $10,000 to $15,000. So we could look into whether there's grant money, certainly, but I've not seen that yet.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Well, one of my questions was, how much is it? So 10 to 15,000. And then the other question I had was, when's the last time we've done it? And then we just had a number of surveys and community feedback events for the comprehensive plan. And would any of that information apply to it? Grants are grants, and we do get, because they sound really nice, grants. They are taxpayer money. And so when we do heavily focus on a lot of grants or apply for a lot of them, and maybe we should, because that's what people think, well, if we don't, somebody else will, but we should keep in mind it's all taxpayer. It's all of our money. I mean, eventually, the more we ask, the more they need, the more they have to tax us more to compensate for next year, and next year, and next year, and it just grows, the challenge.
Yeah, just to answer, I'm not aware that we've done this before in the community. I've done it in some other places, helpful to those councils. And then from the comprehensive plan perspective, I'd have to talk with Tom on that, but I'm sure some of that information could be helpful to us. Certainly the comprehensive plan, especially as we activate it in Invisio, is going to be more of an actively engaging plan than most comp plans. And so I'm excited about that because I do think it'll guide us towards some budget investments as we really get deeper into it. And certainly if you consider that the community engagement we did led us to what's in that plan, then yes, it could help in that way.
Councilmember Peterson?
We did do a lot of surveys and stuff for the comp plan, but like Charlie mentioned, this is something that would occur in 2028 to prep us for the next budget cycle, so I do think it's a good idea. Regarding grant applications from Sedro-Woolley resulting in higher state and federal taxes, I don't know that our state legislators or our congressional representatives are looking at the city of Sedro-Woolley grant applications and going to reduce taxes because of that. However, it is filing week, so anyone who is interested in running to actually make those decisions can do that now.
Councilmember Cock?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, if it's not for a few years, let's just, you know, if you want to make it, I would leave it in just to give us the opportunity to do it. When we have the opportunity to do it, maybe it'll be something like Burlington's gonna do it and we can pitch in with them, something like that. Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson? Did you? Okay, sorry. Well, you got something to say, I can see it, but, all right, go ahead. Charlie?
All right, moving on. So at the bottom, under goal 4, the strategies, those are all staff, just kind of clarifications where we just expanded out some of the definitions and things like that. So any questions or concerns from council on those edits? It's mainly clarifications. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to keep moving. If you can always go back. Next page, we've got under 1.3 and 1.4. Councilmember Peterson, anything you want to discuss or propose there?
No, we can just move on.
Okay, we'll keep on moving. 2.1 was a staff edit, just update the city's permitting and zoning as opposed to review permitting and zoning. So just clarity there.
Councilmember
If I may, would we need monthly reports, or could we do bi-monthly or quarterly reports on the Invisio since, or is it such a big plan that we want to track it monthly? What's that? Yeah, but I mean, do we have, because it's automatic, I guess we are getting them, but do we need to do that monthly, or can we do that bi-monthly or quarterly?
I think we can set it up on any cadence that the council would prefer.
Do you guys prefer monthly? Because it becomes repetitive information, you see small changes, and then you just, go over it, and it becomes just background noise, like many others. But when it's coming out and you're seeing the actual changes taking place in a larger scale because more time has passed, it's more impactful. So that's just my only input on that.
Okay, Councilmember Henderson?
We can review it though, like anytime we want, right? But I think one of the things that I like, especially, I've noticed Bill's done it a few times, is we'll have an informational only item on our agenda, and that'll be included in the packet, right? But it's not necessarily something that we need to go over and talk about. It's more, this is for your information, and I know that we could at least maybe, we get a lot of social media traffic sometimes, so that might be something that we could, throw out the link for every once in a while on Facebook or Instagram or whatever anybody uses
The socials.
these days.
Councilmember Peterson?
I think that's a good idea that Councilmember Henderson just stated. And it kind of goes towards what I was saying earlier, I think unsuccessfully trying to communicate, changing the perception of fairness in the way our city government works. I think getting these kinds of reports out on social media and kind of out into the public would really help with that.
Okay, we'll look at some ways to do that.
I don't want to downplay the importance of that for sure, but I just haven't heard that in the time that I've been on council. But it's come up a few times tonight, so I just want to make sure that we're not creating something that's not really there from the community that feels like there's some sort of political bias with measures or projects that we do or things that Bill does or that the planning department does or anything like that. So I think if there is any of that stuff, definitely address it with Charlie and the mayor right away, so that way it kind of can be handled. But I think when we repeat that without having that, I don't know if you've heard that before, Charlie, or the mayor or anybody. So it's just new to me to hear that term repeated throughout the night, that there's a political bias and the community feels that the city or the council or city officials are not treating them fairly. So that's the only thing I want to say.
All right, if we're ready to move on to the next page, 4 point,
Something real quick.
no worries. I'm just hustling you along, but you
yeah,
can stop
on-
me anytime.
Two things I
Go ahead.
mentioned, and on the hub building, Mayor Kesty and I are both on the committee, and we need to change the language because it's the Port of Skagit that will do the restoration. They're doing a big fundraising campaign for it. So just, assist the Port of Skagit. They're funding it. They're doing a very high-level fundraising thing. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that. They haven't gone live yet. But, so I would just change that. And then in the next sentence, it says, work with Port of Skagit County Innovation Center, Sedro-Woolley Chamber of Commerce, and EDES to recruit 2 new businesses. I would like to have more than 2. So maybe get rid of the word 2, just new businesses. Yeah, well, 2 would be nice, but no reason to cap it.
Okay. Any concerns with those edits from council?
No.
All right, seeing none. 2 is gone. All right, turning the page if we're ready. So on to the next one, Councilmember Peterson, you had a comment there under 4.2.
We can disregard this because it's happening before 2028.
Sounds good. Moving on to the next page then. Just had a small staff edit to add trail road to trail. Trail road corridor. And then there was a comment that this should be in goal 2. So
I don't think we need to review my notes on that.
Okay.
It seems like copy editing. I think
Yeah,
you
no
and I
worries.
had
I'm
talked
hap-
on the phone about it.
I'm happy to move things
Yeah,
around.
Let's
All
hustle
right.
up.
Oh,
Sorry.
Councilmember Cock, though, before we hustle. Okay, go ahead. Charlie, you make,
Okay, I'll keep on going.
okay?
All right, so I'm gonna just skip over the Councilmember Peterson comments on the remainder of this page unless you want me to just halt me if you want me to stop or you want to stop and talk about one. A few more staff edits there. I think they're all, fairly minor. If anybody's got any heartburn on those, just speak now or let me know later. But we just provided some clarifications there, added in one point, Sedro-Woolley School District and the Port of Skagit to just be more clear on various partners and community partners. But that's it for that list, but that's not it. So
But wait, there's more.
there is. So those were, a few staff edits, one council member's edits. We have also Councilmember DeYoung who submitted this via email, and so I'm going to very briefly cover this and ask for the council's support in making edits. So he had 2 emails. One email was referencing more like formatting issues. He's right. I noticed some double numbering and some other issues that need to be worked out. I just didn't want to touch the document until we got together. But I can change numbering and structure. I can do some things with strategy alignment, repeated items. This is all the attachment that's in the packet. Wording, I can take a look at wording. I'll do it and track changes after this version so everybody sees what I change. But I didn't, again, want to touch it because if I'd done all of this on this version, it would have been impossible to read. So I'll come back with the next draft and do this, and then some draft cleanup. He had a very specific list. I will go through his list and double check all these things. A few of them are like, move this, combine that. I will kind of use my discretion on that if council's okay with that. And, if there's still an issue, I'm sure he'll let us know as well. So there's that, and then there's another email that came from him that was more policy-related comments, and so that's in your other information in the packet. And we provided you handouts partly to kind of help walk through this stuff, but he had some specifics on goal number 1, Parks and Recreation. He wanted to add a 4th strategy, Outdoor Recreation Gateway, which he called Outdoor Recreation Gateway, and then he provided a position at Sedro-Woolley as a gateway to the North Cascades by strengthening parks, trails, outdoor recreation, youth recreation, river access events, visitor wayfinding, and connections to the central business district. So feedback from council, do you want me to just write that into the next draft and you can consider it at that point, or do you want to talk about it tonight? Yeah. Okay. If, with your discretion on that, I'm happy to just propose these on his behalf in the next draft, and that way it'll all be in there for your consideration. So I'm just going to do that with all of his stuff that's listed here. And lastly, Councilmember Cock had Also an email that he sent forth, and I am scrolling down to that one. If I can find it. Yeah. So, of course, he has just stepped out of the room briefly, but
Right.
I'm going to do my best to paraphrase. He's coming back, so this is good timing. Give him a moment, but I'll at least start with his first paragraph. He did not see a mention of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and he and I had a bit of an email exchange about this. Councilmember Koch discussing your email, the last item here. He and I went back and forth on this. I think it's really just a council decision. We're going to work on that wastewater treatment plant upgrade regardless of it, whether it's in the strategic plan or not. These strategic plans are often kind of an effort to move the city in some new directions. But that said, it is a major work item, there's no question. And so it could easily be reflected in here, and we could easily track progress on it very visibly for you. So that's really up to council. Do you want to find a way to work the wastewater plant in here?
Can I say something about?
Go ahead, Councilmember Koch.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Bill Bullock for giving me an excellent and informative tour of the wastewater treatment plant, and to say what great staff we have down there. So I'm okay with it being either place, whether in here or just something we all acknowledge and know is very important. Many millions of dollars, and we're going to have to take out some big loans, right, to pay for it. But without doing it, and I told this to Bill when I was a journalist in the South, I actually covered a town where they exceeded their ability. And if you want to see angry business people showing up in your council meeting, let that happen. So, yeah, I'm fine either way. I just want to make sure that we know that it's a major need for the city. I'm okay either way.
So, Charlie, I also did develop a goal, strategy, and activity set that I could give you that addresses specifically the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, if the council's okay with it, we'll propose something in the next draft. Yeah, we'll just handle it that way. Thank you, Bill. Excellent. And then there was one other paragraph to his email under goal 4, 3.1. The language reads like the city will be, we already covered this actually, so that's great. I think we covered this in prior discussion on the hub building. Councilmember Koch, do you feel like we satisfied that paragraph? Excellent. Okay, I think we are done with this item. Thank you all for your patience.
Well done, everyone. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Central Skagit Library District.
Good evening, Council. So we've already discussed this topic at the March 4th meeting, including the document, kind of the assessment document. So I won't go over that in detail. But what we're really looking for from council tonight is which option would the council like to move forward with. So just a quick summary. The library district came to the city and provided us with some information that they're considering a levy lid lift in the future, and that will impact the city's payment to the library district, as our payment is based on the library district's levy rate. So I'll go over quickly the 5 options, and if council has questions or want to discuss amongst yourselves. But before I did that, I did just want to remind council that our role in this is whether we want to put on the ballot annexing into the library district. The library district has presented that they're supportive of that idea if we choose to go down that route. Our role is not the library lid lift. The library is a separate government entity from us, and their role is regarding their own levy. So really for us, it's whether we want to put to voters annexation and what we want to do with our own budgeted levy or not. So option 1 is that the city places the annexation onto the November 2026 ballot to annex into the library district in 2027. So the residents of Sedro-Woolley would be a part of the library district in 2027. Option 2, same situation, but we could potentially reduce our own budgeted levy by up to, and this is up for debate, but I would say the max we would want to do is $474,000. So we could reduce our budgeted levy by the dollar amount that we paid to the library in 2025. That's an option. Option 3 is that the city annexes into the library district the year after the library district potentially has their levy lid lift. Option 4, again, similar to option 3, we could do that same thing but lower our own budgeted levy. And of course, option 5 is always an option that we take no action on this topic. I will note that the city can choose to basically bank the capacity, so we could retain the right to keep our full budgeted levy, and council, each year council can authorize up to the highest lawful levy, which includes the 1% increase. But every year, council has the option not to do that. So if council wanted to not include that in a ballot measure, and have the option to levy that property tax, that's also an option. So I've outlined 5 options here, but there are variations in any of these options, but wanted to give a format for council to kind of think this through.
Thank you, Kelly. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that option 2 is probably the softest on the taxpayers for our city, it looks like, based on your notes here. I do think that we should put that on the ballot so the people can choose whether or not they want to be part of the library district. And then, hopefully that would give us the voting power to let them choose what they want to do when it comes to the levy lid lift for the library. Without being a part of that library district, we're putting about 13,000 voters out of a choice to be able to be a part of that district, and then, or to be a part of that levy. And then if that levy should pass, then the city, we would absolutely be on the hook for the additional funds, and we would have no way to pay it except out of our general fund. So I would be inclined to go with option 2. I think that's softer on the taxpayers than option 1, and I never like to see taxes go up ever, and I'd like all of our 13,000 residents to make the same decision for themselves.
Thank you. Councilmember Koch?
I completely agree with option 2. I think giving voters a chance to, let's let our voters decide whether they want to be part of that. I guess, I had to read it like, no offense, Kelly, you did a great job, but it's complicated, and I had to read it several times to understand it. And I just worry that our voters might have a hard time with that too. So I don't know how, we can't be partisan and say vote for this, but how do we get that information out to them? I'm just curious how that might happen.
Yeah, I can help with that. We're allowed to provide information. We definitely cannot tell people, what they should do. But we did a bit of a speaking tour on the levee lid lift for the fire related levee lid lift that we did. Talked at a variety of different spots. We would plan to do that again. We also hired a communications firm to help us put together some of the messaging and do some mailings to just get information out to people. So that's my recommendation, that we do that again. In some ways, this message could be boiled down to something I think relatively simple, and that is that your taxes, and we'll have to work on the exact numbers, but your taxes, are not going to increase. This just gives you a more direct voice in the library itself, and allows you to vote in future elections related to the library. So I think that's my suggestion, at least, in kind of how we communicate it. But we will need to explain some of the background as well, and that'll all be a part of the information.
Just as a point of clarity, they probably will increase just a little bit. That I wouldn't, because we've paid increasing dollar amounts to the library district, because the assessed value within Sedro-Woolley has increased at a greater rate than the assessed value of the library district. Our rate, the payment has gone up more than, I think, I don't have the number memorized, but it's in there. I think it was like 3%. That if we reduce our budgeted levy by the number I've included here, and then citizens have to pay the library district a levy directly to the library district, there will be a slight increase. It's a small dollar amount, but just wanted to make that clear.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't really understand it fully, so when I was reading through it, it's kind of going up and down, and I don't get it. So I'm going to trust the wisdom of the council, Councilman Henderson, on understanding that a bit more. It does sound like that is the softer option, so I appreciate that. And I would be in favor of option 2 as well.
Councilmember Peterson?
Well, I guess maybe I'm ready to make a motion. I'll make a motion to, oh no, is the language written out in here? I want to make a motion to, for the city of Sedro-Woolley to put the city annexing into the library district on the ballot in November of 2026, and a reduction in the city budgeted levy.
Can you clarify which option?
Option 2.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion for option 2. The city places the annexation on the November 2026 ballot to annex into the library district into 2027 and reduces the city's budgeted levy up to $474,115. The motion made by Councilmember Peterson, seconded by Councilmember Henderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes. All right, so moving on, we're going to go into new business, Skagit Transit Board appointment confirmation. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. My approach to board appointments has been focused on sharing the regional workload and providing broader opportunities for representation rather than before where it was just the mayor and the same individuals on every major board assignment. This appointment was never a reflection on Paul or his dedication to the role. I believe he has always served with sincerity and commitment. Rather, this decision was based on the principle that, like the mayors before me and those serving throughout the region today, the mayor has the responsibility and authority to select the representation they believe best serves their city. As reflected in this correspondence throughout this process, the CEO of Skagit Transit has presented differing explanations regarding this appointment, many of which have not aligned with the guidance provided by our legal counsel or administrative staff. It is disappointing that what should have been a straightforward process required such extensive back and forth. The city had to maneuver through multiple threats, and it's now likely that this board position might not even exist in the near future. I felt it was important that the city stand on principle and exercise its right to determine its own appointment. For the reason we placed this item on the agenda, we have placed this item on the agenda for this evening. Regional partnerships work best when agencies respect the authority of each city and its elected leadership. My responsibility, first and foremost, is to represent the citizens of Sedro-Woolley and ensure our community's voice is properly represented. While I remain committed to working collaboratively with regional partners, Sedro-Woolley will always come first in the decisions I make as mayor. And with that, I'll pass it to Charlie.
Okay, council, so we've got an item here for you tonight. The topic is Skagit Transit Board appointment confirmation. Mayor Kesty's been working her way through our regional boards and committees and making appointments, as the mayors before her have done. And this has been a bit of a journey with Skagit Transit, trying to do something similar. Mayor Kesty's desire and her request to the council for confirmation is to remove Councilmember Koch from a city council position on the Skagit Transit Board and to appoint Councilmember DeYoung to serve in that position. There's been a lot of back and forth, as Mayor Kesty mentioned. We included a lot of that correspondence in the packet, as well as Skagit Transit's bylaws. There at least have been some provisions in Skagit Transit's bylaws that have been pushed to the city, indicating that we cannot make a change at this time. And the legal advice that we received is counter to that. And, in principle, we are moving forward with this evening. That is the recommendation. So I'd like to turn it over to Dan Curtis a little bit to discuss more, of some of the legal back and forth. We also had comments from the CEO of Skagit Transit that came in that are included in the packet under other. So it's basically late material that came into the city to be submitted as part of public comment. So that's there for your review as well. And I'd like to turn it over to Dan to provide a little bit more of the legal context.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess to put it the best that I can, what we have here is the result of a little bit of a disagreement and maybe a misunderstanding in terms of just the fundamental structure of local governance in Washington State and the interaction between municipalities and interlocal boards. Every component city on the PTBA up until now has appointed its representatives unilaterally by the mayor. Our mayor was appointed, which makes it a little bit different, such that it's irregular and so not at a regularly timed interval. And that seems to have triggered some alarm or upset on the PTBA board and with the CEO. And so they took some exception to the mayor's appointment authority. And in my opinion, that's misguided. We have general state statutes in the state of Washington that use the term governing body. And the reason for that is because we have two types of local government in the state of Washington. We have mayor-council forms of government, and we have council-manager forms of government. And so the state statutes that are not specifically referring to one or the other will use that term governing body. But for a mayor-council form of government, the mayor is included there. And you'll see in my memo on page 99 of your packet, I sort of run through, why a municipality in Washington with that mayor-council form of government has the authority in the executive position to make these appointments. And I'll be brief and get to a conclusion here in a second. what I'm getting at is doctrinally speaking, under just basic separation of powers, your mayor is your chief executive who has appointment powers. And those powers are assumed unless limited legislatively by the council. And that's sort of established not just by like the penumbra of state statutes, but also it's supported contextually within our code. And you'll see some argument, counter argument in here about, if the mayor had that unilateral authority, then they could appoint and then remove someone really quickly. Over and over. One point is that hasn't happened in the history of these appointments. Another point is that's actually counter to the consensus understanding of the limitations on power, because the mayor is pulling from a limited pool, which is the council. And so if the mayor were to make multiple appointments and removals from the council, then the council would likely use its power as the legislative body as a limit on the executive, and then limit that executive power, as it's been known to do, by ordinance, which would then be codified in the municipal code. And then that ordinance would be subject to a mayoral veto. And such is the structure of local government, and it's carefully crafted that way for a reason. And I'm happy to take questions.
Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've read through this, and I think that the SCAT board of their rules and regulations should be able to have their rules set so that the people aren't removed within a year on their own behalf. I don't think that should be something that limits our ability within our body or our city, and the mayor's ability to step forth and appoint or move people around. I've never challenged another mayor's positions on an appointment. There might have not been some that I have agreed with, but I've never challenged any appointments to any of the boards with North Star or SCAT or any of them. I've always respected the mayor's position in the city, and I've honored that. So I would like to continue to honor that. I think that your explanation in your document and your interpretation of governing bodies and the ruling of the government with the legislative branch limiting the power of the executive branch, but the executive branch working within its authority given by the legislative branch is a correct interpretation. I really appreciate you pointing that out. And it is my honor to support our city and the mayor that is in place. And I think if we don't do that as a body, we're setting a precedence for other communities to where we have another body come in and take over their ability to govern their own community. And so I don't think it's a matter of who's making that decision. I think it's a matter of that decision being made. And I'm displeased to see this even come before the council. I'm displeased to see this discussion taking place and us paying our lawyer to go through on a back and forth to go through this whole process. And that's my personal opinion on this. I think Paul Koch is an amazing guy. We've had great coffee and discussions, and I think you would do good on the board, but I just think that this is a position that we have allowed the mayor, whoever is in that seat, to have, and I want to continue to respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Henderson?
This is not for me, it has nothing to do with who I think should be on the board or who I don't think should be on the board, because that's not my decision. What troubles me is that there is a CEO of an organization that we pay taxes into that is trying to make decisions and shoot from the hip and say what she wants and doesn't want, and then comes back and quite frankly, threatens our city. Looking through the new bylaws, because I guess we just change bylaws all the time now, added in section 511 and 512 for the new bylaws that they want to, Skagit Transit wants to impose on the board. And one of them is that the board has the authority to remove by majority vote any board member or their designee for violations of any of these bylaws. In such case, the board may allow a component city or town to appoint another member in accordance with the bylaws, or the board may opt, and that's the important part, to instead leave the position vacant until the subsequent term commences. So now we have a rogue CEO of an organization threatening that she can use her influence, because she's mentioned that several times in these correspondence, to remove our representation on this board completely, but we still have to pay taxes into it? I mean, this is absolutely insane. And the more you look into it, the more it should make everybody absolutely angry with bureaucracy in this county. And I know that me and you had a discussion, Councilwoman Peterson, a while ago, about not letting outside agencies be able to come in and push Sedro-Woolley around. And this right here is exactly what is happening, and it's disgusting. So, Dan, I had a question for you about all these changes to clearly punish the city of Sedro-Woolley in these in the section 511 and 512 of the new proposed bylaws. Can they even do that to us?
Yeah, this is where I want to be careful not to telegraph any potential arguments in case they do decide to act on some of these things, but the short answer is no. The component cities, like you mentioned, we're all being charged that 0.4% tax. And so we are entitled to representation. Exactly what that looks like, the board does have some discretion, but it is subject to that PTBA statute. And there are specific rules for the composition of the board. And I think that's, given the state of disagreement, I think that's as specific as I want to get into it in a public forum.
Can I say something?
Thanks, Dan.
Councilmember Cog.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, this might be a little too long, but I'm gonna read it. Respectfully, I do not understand why Mayor Kesty and the City Council are looking to replace me on the Skagit Transit Board after 4 months of service there. This week, the mayor and council received a public comment letter from Skagit Transit CEO Crystal Stedham asking for me to remain on the Skagit Transit Board for the completion of my one-year term. I have some of my reasoning for staying on the board is similar. I've served on the Skagit Transit Board for over 4 months. I completed orientation for the board, studied the large transit system binders, went through a 2-hour training on the transit system's complex compensation study, and attended all scheduled board meetings. I'm not aware of my conduct as a board member being anything but appropriate, effective, and representative for the citizens of Sedro-Woolley and the riders of Skagit Transit. Also, at the last meeting of the Skagit Transit Board, the board agreed to implement a policy to put advertising on SCAT buses to generate more revenue for the agency. I have considerable related experience from my prior position as longtime communications director at Western Washington University. SCAT board asked me to help with SCAT's implementation of its advertising policy. A well-orchestrated advertising policy will benefit Skagit Transit financially, which is a good thing for Skagit County taxpayers. The time I put in has allowed me to develop knowledge, expertise, and understanding of the workings of Skagit Transit. This knowledge, by helping me make informed decisions on the board, directly benefits the riders of Skagit Transit and the citizens of Sedro-Woolley. The Skagit Transit Board bylaws set the term of office for members of the board at 1 year to develop continuity in positions. Having board members replaced before the 1-year term requires the training of a new board member all over again after only 4 months, a waste of taxpayer-funded training and resources. In conclusion, I would like to remain on the Skagit Transit Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Charlie, did you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I think, just the main policy question here is whether the council wants to confirm Mayor Custy's selection.
I'm so sorry. Councilmember Peterson.
I'm not an attorney, so I came at this from a different perspective. Mayor Custy and I met when she first started her term, and we talked a little bit about how she wanted to do board and committee and all of those appointments in a more equitable way, and I really liked that idea. It sounded like the idea was to kind of bring the vacancies to the council so that we could all kind of review them as a group, and council members would have the opportunity to volunteer to serve for those open positions. In my mind, this isn't a vacancy. There's no vacancy here, so I don't see a reason to really change the appointment in the middle of a board member's term. But I would like to see that kind of open discussion that we had discussed, Mayor Custy, for those open city boards and commissions and things like that.
So for that, what I was referring to is that I wanted to get everybody's input, and like I had established earlier, the prior mayor had chosen over and over specific council members to serve on a lot of boards, and I wanted to open it up to more being able to have opportunities. Some have been waiting years. And so that's what it was, is to get a feel for everybody, what they wanted to do. And then it's at the mayor's prerogative to choose which one to do, just like had been done before. But I'm trying to open it up for everybody. Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on the principle with the SCAT situation right now, that's where I have strong disagreement, because the fact that the mayor should have the authority given to them, whether it's male or female, to executively execute the wishes of the council and the people how she sees fit or they see fit. So that's where I have issue with this particular situation. I think Councilman Koch is a wonderful guy, like I said. I think he would do great on that, on any board, and you have served on multiple boards. But at the same time, I had strong grievance that I did not choose to err on the way that boards were assigned. And I was not asked to go to boards. I know that Councilwoman Diamond, Councilman Owens, Councilman, Glenn Allen, I can go on and on. We're not given the same opportunities that very, very few people on the council received. And so opening it up for discussion and spreading it out a little bit more equitable allows for that. So if the new mayor feels like that is something that they would like to do or not like to do, I would encourage that. And it may start with some immediate changes, and maybe that's not the correct path, maybe it is, but it's their ability to make that decision. I think if we stifle that ability to make that decision, we set precedents for an outside body to come in and dictate how a city is ran, regardless of which city it is or which mayor is in their position. So this could go as far as LaConner or some other place. Maybe a mayor gets placed in Mount Vernon that a body doesn't like or doesn't want, and then goes back and forth with who they have, and it becomes more of a tension than it becomes more about respecting that city's governance and jurisdiction. So that's where I have challenges with this. I would appreciate, Councilman Cox still serving on multiple boards as he has in the past already, haven't you? Yeah, so a couple of them, and I would think that would open up as those board positions come available, and we have that open discussion, and it's equitable for the entire council. Everybody be asked, do you want to be on the board? And the ones that do put their name in the hat, and then the mayor chooses this one for that one, and allows that to spread through all of the council that's voted in by every person in this community. So every person has 3 representatives, just to make this quite clear. They have 2 legislative officials that represent them, and they have 1 executive. And so if only very few people are being allowed to serve in those boards, they're not getting their full representation. And then if those are removed due to some bylaws, and I'm curious to see when those changed, then we do have taxation without representation, and that itself, I think, would be worthy to take to court and figure out where we do stand with that, just in principle and in behalf of the rest of the people of Skagit County, or the state for that fact, because what precedence does it set? Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you.
If I may just,
Sure. Dan? Go ahead, Dan.
yeah, just for clarity, I just wanted to make clear that this proposal isn't intended to make an appointment in contradiction with the bylaws. And even under the newest bylaws, under term of office until completion of their term, unless such person is legally ineligible to hold such position. And then if you scroll back up to Article 2, Section 2.1, Board Composition, it says, subject to the provisions to RCW 3657A.050, that RCW says at the pleasure of the governing body, and that is a state law. And so once you've been removed at the pleasure of the governing body, then you're no longer legally eligible. And so it's my understanding that this appointment is not in contradiction to the bylaws, and wouldn't necessarily trigger the threats under the new language. And it's certainly not intended to do that. And I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Dan. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you. It's my understanding that this doesn't even need a council vote. This is just a confirmation, or a formality, so to speak. Now with what Dan just said about that provision, then it becomes a little bit more real. But to me, this is more of us as a city and of a council basically just standing up to a bully. And I think in Councilman Koch, I have enjoyed serving with you, and I do think that you are a great asset to this council. And this has no reflection on your abilities or the time that you've served or anything else. For me, this is purely to set precedence to this organization that we're not going to be pushed around. We're not going to have these emails sent to us, and we're not going to have these bylaw changes that are extremely horrible and completely out in left field imposed on us. We want to be represented. Our constituents want to be represented. And so with that, I would move to motion the confirmation of the mayor's appointment, Carl DeYoung, to serve as the city council representative on the Skagit Transit Board of Directors at the pleasure of the mayor pursuant to section 2.1 of the Skagit PTBA bylaws as amended March 2026.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Henderson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councilmember Lavaca. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. Thank you. Now we will go to the flock license. Dan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm sure you're pretty aware of this situation here, but just a little background on this. In November 24, I brought this to you for an option to install 7 license plate reader cameras in the city. That was approved, and that contract was approved. It was finally installed in March of 2025. Overall, that plan was to use those cameras to increase overall public safety, and unfortunately, it ran into some issues. Those were then turned off in June of 25. Basically, those license plate readers give us alerts on stolen vehicles, missing persons, wanted subjects, and such. And so that's really important to us to want to find these criminals that are out there, and also the missing people. So since we've had it off for quite a while, and waiting for legislation to come up with a policy that I feel is reasonable. They listen to some of our law enforcement concerns as far as being able to use these for gross misdemeanors and felonies and stolen vehicles and such in the same manner, but also put the necessary restrictions in order to alleviate some issues that popped up. So right now we're restricted to confirming we still don't have them on, we haven't turned them on, but those restrictions limit it to only Washington State sharing of agencies, which confirms that we all have the same policies intact following Washington State law. So we can't do anything with immigration, we can't do anything outside federal. So really, it's pretty good policy, and all we have to do is follow the policy in order to do so. A lot of the agencies ran into the issue of the national lookup tool. That's where the some of the breaches were happening as far as those going out externally. That's no longer available. That's disabled. It can't be done. I know some of you guys, Councilwoman Peterson, you submitted some questions. Overall, I'm looking forward to turning them back on and using this as intended for increasing the solvability of crimes. Again, these are not video surveillance cameras. They are just still photos taking pictures of license plates. We do have to confirm those hits before we take any action. All this is in a policy that I'm working on that I'm pretty much done with. And then what this also includes is additional training to officers, going through all the training with the new policies intact in compliance with Senate Bill 6002. We've also checked where our location of the cameras are to verify they are not in prohibited places. They are away from schools, religious activities, hospitals. None of them are even close to those locations, so I'm pretty comfortable with those. I've audited those reviewed those with Flock, and I think we're in a good spot. So reality, I'm trying to get these turned back on with council's approval, and I'm willing to take any questions if you have any. Again, this has been approved and budgeted, so it wouldn't be any additional cost to us at this point. And additionally, I was able to negotiate with Flock, since it's been turned off for so long, to get a prorated discount on the time we lost. So this year's bill went down from $22,500 to about $7,100. That's what our bill is this year. I'm willing to take any questions if you like.
Okay, Councilmember Cock?
Yeah, first of all, Chief, thanks for your great work on this. I've been, I know there's sort of big brother concerns about flock cameras, but I trust our city police. And when I read the news stories about, and thank you to our legislators who fixed a lot of significant problems in this, and now it can only be shared on certain crimes with law enforcement, which is really what they were intended for. And like I said, when we first saw these cameras come online, if we prevent one Amber Alert from coming to fruition, it's worth every penny. So I support turning them back on.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm kind of torn on the subject of the flock cameras. I've watched the debates on both ends, and I do see where there was, maybe some, from what I've seen, just peering into cars and things like that, the photos they showed. But I think legislation really kind of helped bring that in and rein that in, which was good. Although from what I understood, Flock really wasn't that supportive when they were called upon. Is that correct? As far as like this whole fiasco happened, and then it had to go before legislation, and Flock just kind of faded into the bushes and hoped everything would work out.
I mean, as far as what we were dealing with, we were doing public records requests, and now those are exempt. So legislation did figure that out. As far as not being supportive, I don't know, other than the difference in opinion as far as who owned the data, right? Whether the police department versus Flock. So legislation has confirmed that this is the ownership of the police department. So I don't know how else to address it. They are being very cooperative with us now. If that's any take, I've gotten a lot of feedback, and I know they've done a lot of changes as far as one of them is a transparency portal that they're putting in place. So I haven't dove into that yet because I have to get more training on that. But once I'm able to get confirmation from you guys, that's one thing I will be able to implement. And what that'll do is show what agencies how many agencies we're sharing within the state, and what's going on with cameras. We can do our contacts, what we've gained from this, what we've solved, and get those stats from that.
Okay. Yeah, as long as they have a working relationship with you that you feel confident on when they are called upon, or if it's something that is needed, whether it be technical support or some other thing of a higher level, that they're going to actually answer the phone, and you feel that they will, that means a lot. That's a big deal. The other thing was they were deactivated on 6/17/2025, right? The cameras were turned off?
That's correct.
All right. We had a pretty serious incident, as you know, at the community center. Do you feel that these cameras would have helped identify that and help bring the resolve to that family or families?
I mean, what we did put in place, right? We did cameras at the community center. That I do think would have brought a lot more clarity to what happened there. That's what I do believe. The flock cameras could have caught the plates going away from the scene. So yes, I do think that would have helped with some of that investigation.
Yeah. I do agree with Councilman Cox's opinion on Amber Alerts and the strength of being able to address certain things like that. There are a lot of missing people. We see that in the Concrete Herald right now, not just children, but people. And so it could be beneficial in that way as well. But thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you. Just one second, I'm going to go to Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. So regular video traffic cameras, I think we have them all over town. I mean, not everywhere, but we got a lot of different ones. We got the one up on top of Hammer Heritage Square that is a relatively okay camera, but it's not the best. We have approval to put in a couple more. IT's got the money for that from I think it was our last, it was our last budget amendment. I hear a lot of concern and fear over the flock cameras. After looking into what they are as a license plate reader and something that goes through a database, that looks for warrants, that, looks for, amber alerts, silver alerts, all that other stuff. A lot of the concern about them being a video camera is not even true. But we do have video cameras everywhere, and that's part of our public safety program. One of the things I wanted to ask you was there's no out-of-state usage at all, so how would we coordinate a Amber Alert that we see on our phones from somebody coming out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
We would not get that.
And it can't be shared, so we wouldn't be able to, because
There could be ways, so if we get a request and it's of that nature, so we're limited to those kind of things, so felonies or gross misdemeanors, and as an Amber Alert, there's generally a crime associated to that. So if we got a request from an agency, reference that, we could search our own system to see if that plate has come into that, not necessarily get alerts from outside. And that's just because different states have different laws on LPRs. And that's what legislation has decided.
okay.
I hope that makes sense.
It does to a certain point, yep. Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you. The concerns that I hear from constituents about the ALPR cameras are related to, they don't want to get traffic tickets, so they don't want automated traffic tickets coming from the cameras, and then also cooperation with ICE. And I think that those things have kind of been addressed by the legislation that recently passed. Washington State now has the most restrictive legislation on these cameras, and I think the Sedro-Woolley Police Department is really well positioned to build trust with the community, and hopefully over time we won't have so many concerns about automated traffic tickets or cooperation with ICE and that kind of thing. One concern that I have is cybersecurity related to these systems, because I know that's a big issue with a lot of organizations, and the data is held on servers not located here. So I'm interested to see how that is addressed moving forward. And my question, I guess, tonight is, since all of these jurisdictions in Washington State are updating these policies at the same time, is there like a work group that's working on this together, or are we kind of on our own developing this?
I have, so there's still a lot of agencies that are working on policies. There's some agencies that have provided policies, so I have some example policies that I'm trying to use. So it's not like Washington State has gone away from LPRs. We decided to turn ours off. A lot of agencies did decide to turn them off to wait how legislation went. But there's a lot of agencies that left them on during the process and still were within policy. We just have to build a policy before and submit it to the Attorney General within 100, well, if we have a new system, register it and submit policy that we're in compliant with Senate Bill 6002. And then Attorney General is going to come up with a model policy in December 27. This is exactly what happened when we had all of the vehicle pursuits and stuff, restraints put upon us, to where we had to come up with our own policies from the Senate bill. So really the policy is ingrained in the Senate bill. You just have to apply it to your policies. So just making sure they're all in there.
Councilmember Koch?
I don't know if discussion's done, but I'd like to make a motion to restart the flock cameras.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to restart the flock cameras made by Councilmember Koch, seconded by Councilmember Henderson. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor Kessel.
Perfect. All right, we will move on to public comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state how you're affiliated with the city. And please note that just because we're not able to answer back to you, that we are still hearing what you have to say, and we will get answers to you shortly. Okay, so we don't have anyone in-house. Oh, okay. Come on down.
I live on Woodworth Street, and I've spoke about this before, that all these kids on these electric motorcycles. The city needs to make some kind of an ordinance to help the police back this up and get them off the streets. You know, in Washington State, operators of a 49cc or under scooters classified as mopeds must have a valid driver's license, while a motorcycle endorsement is not required for mopeds under 50cc, under 30 miles per hour. The vehicle must be registered, and the rider must follow specific safety regulations, such as wearing a DOT-approved helmet. Yesterday, I'm on Rita Street. Two of those motorcycles, they're electric motorcycles, and they are motorcycles, they're not bicycles, came tearing down the street, and one of them had 3 kids on it. The other had 2. Only one helmet between all 5 of them. And they were just flying down there over 30 miles an hour. And they're tearing up the railroad property there, the railroad easement, back and forth, just to aggravate me. Because I went out there and I put topsoil in all the holes that they dug with the back tires out there, trying to smooth it out and make it so people wouldn't trip and twist an ankle, break an ankle, whatever, fall. And of course, they went out there and spun right in those holes again, just to aggravate me. And that's why I don't like putting my name and stuff up here, addresses, because retribution. But these parents need to be held liable for these kids. They shouldn't even be on these, period. It's not electric bicycle. And they don't have to have a driver, or they need to have a driver's license for these things. And they don't. And they need to follow the rules for the road. And they're on sidewalks. I've had some elderly people at the senior center said, I almost got hit by one. If I'd just stepped out, they would have nailed me on the sidewalk. You know, they don't belong on sidewalks. They don't belong on the streets. These things have knobby tires on them. And there's probably 5 of them that I've seen around. I've seen kids on go-karts, mini bikes in this town. It's like, what's going on here? Just free for all because you can drive ATVs on the streets now? So they think they can just drive anything? It's getting out of hand. And I'd like to see you guys try to make some kind of a city ordinance law to help the police take care of this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, nobody, oh, I got, okay, come on forward.
I've never done anything like this before. Okay. Good evening, guys. Okay. My name's Christy Freeberg. I am a longtime resident of Sedro-Woolley. My son graduates this year. He's done all 13 years in the school district here. I'm also a small business owner here. I own I own Professional Optician Services Northwest, where we provide staffing and products to local optical shops. And I'm also an owner of and operator of a nonprofit called Aurora Eye Care Initiative, where I bring eye care to remote villages in Alaska. And I was just recently featured on the cover of the Seattle Times. So been here for a while, but I'm here tonight because I believe this has been a nightmare for me, but I believe our city's current animal control enforcement policies are unfair, excessive, and are lacking reasonable oversight. I understand the importance of leash law, I do, and public safety, I truly do, but I have experienced over the last several months has gone far beyond reasonable enforcement. It has felt targeted, personal, and completely disproportionate. My dog is well loved, vaccinated, registered, well fed, and well cared for. He is a husky, that he's very smart. I brought him home in my backpack from a village in Alaska. And yet somehow more city resources have gone into pursuing my dog than into addressing the actual animal welfare issues happening right outside our community. A quick Facebook public comment, I uncovered puppy mills and animals living in terrible conditions miles away from me, while enormous time and energy has been spent pursuing responsible dog owners and at large citations. At one point, I was told my address was undeliverable. That is my business address for 5 years, so which prevented me from even receiving proper notices. By the time I was aware this was happening, the citations had already escalated dramatically, which is in the policies of the city. I later learned there was discussions about my dog, where my dog would be placed, well before this process would fairly played out. They'd already found him a dog sled place for him to go. So I've lost my dog, but we're in court right now. But anyways, this is deeply concerning. No city employee should have unchecked ability to create the level of fear and financial hardship for residents without stronger accountability and oversight. When enforcement begins to feel personal instead of procedural, we have a serious problem. This has cost my family thousands of dollars, enormous stress, and countless hours in court over a dog that is loved and cared for. Meanwhile, many residents in town are becoming increasingly concerned, there's a big old thread on the community page, how much power has been concentrated to one position without enough transparencies or checks and balances. I'm asking this council to seriously review our animal control policies, the escalation process, and the handling of citations and notifications, and the discretion used in enforcement. This is not about my dog anymore, not just about my dog. I mean, I miss my dog, that's my family member, and yeah. This is about fairness, accountability, and making sure the city resources are focused on protecting truly endangered animals and serving the people in this community appropriately. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. Come on up.
Well, for one, a couple weeks ago, the last meeting I was here, she had some people about the Skagit River. Get them back here so I can ask them questions. Not you guys, me. Because I've been in this town for 65 years. I've been in all the major floods in this town. This one's getting worse here, the last one. And they're trying to say there's no floods ain't that bad. They're full of shit. I want them back here so I can talk to them in front of everybody here. Then you guys talking about the sidewalks in this town. I know every sidewalk in this town are terrible. Guys ride around these wheelchairs, can't use those sidewalks, period. You asked about them up there a little while ago. There's so many people getting these wheelchairs, it's got to use them. If I get out of this wheelchair, I'm going down and I can't get up. And if I end up screwing this wheelchair by one of these sidewalks, I guarantee you this city's going to buy me another wheelchair. My insurance paid that. But you guys will buy me another wheelchair if these sidewalks screw my wheelchair up. I guarantee you. So you guys better think about it. About getting these sidewalks fixed. 'Cause I know every sidewalk in this town, 'cause I've been in this town long enough. And that one street you're talking about, down here by Central School, get that cement out of there, put asphalt down. Asphalt's cheaper to lay down than it's concrete. It's easier to put down. Then you won't have the problem. But that road's been like that for 10, 15 years, but nobody's wanted to do anything about it. It's about time to do something about it, because cars go through there, and they tear the cars up. I've gone down that street. It's a joke. Then you got people parking their vehicles on the sidewalk, which is illegal. Once you guys do your job. Because I sit in this office all day long drinking coffee and donuts. I mean, I don't like cops. I have no use for them. Especially the ones here or the sheriff's department. My brother's dead because these sheriffs wouldn't do nothing about it. You know, I'm getting tired of these cops driving around doing nothing. These kids with these electric bikes do whatever they want. Speed, whole 9 yards. They're going to get somebody killed, or they're going to get killed, and nobody's stopping them. Like Bill said, they ought to get them tickets. They have no license. They're too young to have a driver's license. 13, 14 years old kids, they can't get a license. So why are they out there on the road? Go after the parents. I see them down Reed Street down there this last weekend. So I drive around this town checking out places you guys want to spend money on, like that bypass you guys want to do. So I'm checking all these jobs that you guys want to do, you don't need to do. Save your money and fix these streets. It needs to be fixed.
Thank you, Chester.
Yep, I'll be back.
Okay,
I guarantee
I'll look
you.
forward to it. We'll see ya.
When I see things going down, you guys are doing it, I don't like, it's against the people in this town, I'm gonna say something.
Okay. Thank you, Chester.
Yep.
All right, Thomas, can you help me see online? Because I can't see any.
Yep, if there's anyone who's online who would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand button. If we see that, we'll promote you and give you the ability to speak.
I can't see the raised hand, so you'll have to let them.
One person has just raised their hand. I'll go ahead and click to allow them to talk. Can we go and get a quick mic check?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there we go. I'll go ahead and start your 3 minutes.
Thank you, appreciate that. Good evening, Mayor Kesty and members of City Council. My name is Crystal Stedham and I'm the CEO of Skagit Transit. I'm offering public comment this evening following the council's action regarding the Skagit Transit Board appointment. I want to begin by acknowledging the city's authority and the seriousness of decisions related to board representation. At the same time, it is important for me in my role as CEO to place several concerns on the public record, particularly as they relate to governance, legal compliance, and the interests of the riders that Skagit Transit serves, many of them who are your constituents. I would also note my disappointment that public comment is scheduled at the end of the agenda after action has already been taken. This structure does not allow public comment to be considered prior to decision-making, which is unfortunate given the significance of the issue and its implication for transparency and public trust. Councilmember Koch was appointed to the Skagit Transit Board for a one-year term that began January 1st, 2026. During his tenure, he completed board orientation, attended every board meeting and workshop, and served on the advertising committee and has become fully engaged in board work. From an operational standpoint, continuity matters. Removing an engaged board member partway through such a short term creates disruption that affects board effectiveness and agency stability. More importantly, this action raises significant governance concerns. Section 2.3 of the Skagit Transit bylaw states that board members serve until the completion of their term unless they are legally ineligible. Councilmember Koch remains legally eligible to serve. Removing or attempting to remove him prior to the completion of his term is a direct violation of the Skagit Transit bylaws. I reviewed the City Council's study packet today with our attorney, and we do not agree with the interpretation that Section 2.3 conflicts with Section 2.1 of the Skagit Transit bylaws or RCW 3657A55. Although the statute states that representatives serve at the pleasure of their governing body, it does not eliminate the board's responsibility and authority to adopt reasonable measures to ensure continuity and stability of board membership, nor does it authorize at-will removal of a currently serving eligible board member who is duly appointed to a term. In addition, RCW 5-57A.055 provides that appointments to the Skagit Transit Board are made by the appointing governing body. State law places appointment authority with the governing body, not with a single elected official acting unilaterally. While this past practice may have differed, Skagit Transit and its member jurisdictions have no obligation to comply with state law going forward. Finally, I want to emphasize that the City of Sedro-Woolley is an essential partner in public transit. Decisions made by the mayor and this council regarding Skagit Transit have real consequences for riders, agency operations, and public transit governance. Board members of Skagit Transit have shared obligation to act in the best interests of the agency, its riders, and the public it serves. I want to be clear that Skagit Transit values its ongoing partnership with the City of Sedro-Woolley, the mayor, and this council. I heard all of your comments tonight, and I'm willing to meet with any of you to discuss this further. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any others with their hands up for public comment that I can't see online?
Sorry, let me switch over to the right tab, but no, I do not believe there's anyone with their hands up.
Okay, perfect. That concludes public comments. And with that, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Lavaca, seconded by Councilmember Henderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Good night, everyone.